Hello everybody, welcome back to Quali-Tea time, and oh boy, apparently I've become a drama channel because there's just so much of it lately. Okay, so good news, there are 2 days left in our Patreon anniversary special offer, so if you sign up to Patreon at patreon.com/lying for any amount, like I think the minimum is like $1, for any amount of time, so you can literally just make it a one-time payment if you want, then you will get a nice little postcard for our lovely little Carol, who is over here. Hello. And that will get delivered as like part of our special. So, mailing address, $1, you can get a postcard from me. So hey, go for that. And that unfortunately is the end of the good news. Because my country is on fire. More so than slightly previous. Okay, so, long story short, I struggle to call him prime, let alone a minister, but the person currently essentially running our government has prorogued it. So for those of you who don't know what that means, proroguing basically means everybody takes a paid vacation. It's a little different to when, to a sort of recess, which is something that Parliament does quite regularly, because you're not allowed to do anything when Parliament has been prorogued. And this is something that they have to actually get, like, straight-up permission from the Queen to do, but it's sort of a situation where there really hasn't ever really been a monarch that's refused a request for proroguing Parliament, so she's just sort of locked into agreeing it. And I mean, it's still not great. She could have taken the opportunity, I feel. Or maybe she's actually evil incarnate and has hidden it from us this entire time, but nonetheless, that's the minor problem. The major problem here is that this has been very, very specifically timed and chosen to reduce the amount of resistance that can be put towards a no-deal Brexit, which is still a term that I hate is going to end up in our history books. And we know this because Boris Johnson made this a very clear point when he was, like, giving interviews and talking in Parliament and everything. So this is, like, not the least bit subtle here. It is very clear that this was done specifically to push through a very dangerous agenda in Parliament. And oh boy, people were not happy with that. Within hours of this announcement being made that this was happening, there were hundreds of thousands of people on the streets and online all over the country. I wish they'd given me slightly more notice, or else I probably would have actually been at one of these rallies, so bleh. As it is, the best I can do is just sign up to a petition. Now, some people are saying that proroguing kind of happens anyway, like this would have happened anyway, and the answer is yes and no. Parliament would have gone to recess pending a new Queen's speech, and the Queen's speech is basically just, oi, you lot, here's the issues of the day that you probably need to fix, but I can't do anything about them because separation of monarchy and people and whatnot. England has a very weird and very, very archaic system, don't worry about it. Yeah, that would have happened. That has to happen after every new general election so that the Queen can say, okay, here's the main issues that this particular government needs to actually address. And yeah, that we've had a recent acquisition of a new Prime Minister, that totally would have happened eventually. It didn't have to happen now. And what's more, the period that Johnson has asked for is probably the longest period of time in history, because he's deliberately trying to run the clock out on Brexit so that he can get it through with no deal, as he's promised he would, which is disastrous and he's an idiot, but we all knew this anyways, without anyone actually having the time to contest it. This has then led to at least one MP resigning, famously saying that if we don't want no deal, then we should commit to voting for a deal, which is like saying if you don't want to be lit on fire, you should commit to getting stabbed. And so, to give an American equivalency here, America, this is a very deep and convoluted historical context, but I'm simplifying grossly here, so don't worry about it. America got started because of lack of representation in Parliament. Okay? Yeah, that's the common myth, right? Boris Johnson has deliberately taken our representation away from us. Our MPs are the people we elect. They're our representatives. At a time when the country is likely to just combust. as it were. So yeah, this is really, really bad. I don't know that I can possibly understate how bad this is. This is legitimately the kind of thing that gets a civil war started. This is legitimately the kind of thing that gets, like, widespread, like, open revolts started. And there's a tendency towards a pattern here of saying, well, you know, we're English, we don't really do that anymore. Not that history has much else to say about that. So we probably won't do that. We've had plenty of opportunity to go into open revolt this whole time, because, yeah, it's been a rough half-decade. But also... oh... I consider myself a pacifist. I don't like violence. I don't like to suggest violence should be used. I don't like to suggest that we should, like, hang people from the rafters or whatnot. But we've had some of the largest protests in English history. We've had two of the largest parliamentary petitions in history. And we have tried to act according to the letter and the procedures of the law at every single step, and every time it hasn't done anything, because the Parliament has the option of just saying, shut up, go away. We've tried to be diplomatic, we've tried to be peaceful here. We've tried to communicate very loudly, and not a single thing has changed or even really stopped. So, as loath as I am to admit it, we're pretty deep into the point where we probably should have been taking substantially more aggressive strategies. And I really don't want to admit that, because I rather like my country not on fire. But the people setting the fires aren't listening to the vast crowd saying, please stop. So... yeah, it's gonna get rough here in the UK in the very near future, before the year is out. Well, I've said my piece onto the schedule. Tonight at 9 PM BST, we have Midnight, where we're starting right into the character creation with Monster Hunter World. And tomorrow on Friday night at 9 PM PST, we have more Friday Night, and I've been having a rough time with DBD lately, let's see if that improves. Then on Saturday at 7, we have Dungeons & Dragon Hats, where we find out how many of these spindly roboty things the trio can handle. Followed, of course, at 9 with the Carousel, talking about exactly how many spindly little things they can handle. And lastly, for our streams on Tuesday at 9, we have more building blocks. And the videos you might have missed for the week. We have an instance of Dailies by Daylight, where we talk about the Hag and her remarkably basic flaws. And an episode of Just the Basics, where Blue Research and our tank finally begins. And we have two instances of the Various Oddities Codex, covering the Guillotine Blade and the World Guard. And on to the questions. So as always, these are drawn from the comments section. If you have anything to ask me, or at the very least gentle pats, drop it down below. Our first and only question of the week comes from Dusty Rose. If Witch is immortal, what happens if you destroy the brain?
Removing the head or destroying the brain?
The Witch is capable of being harmed. We know that much. Their immortality doesn't kick in at full health. It actually kicks in right when they would die. So, what we would presume to happen would be you would deal an incredible blow, and the Witch has learned, at the very least, to not care about pain. Their genetic tampering means they're sort of constantly under a low-grade level of chronic pain, so yeah. Pain is not a huge issue for them, especially since they have built-in regen. But you would destroy the brain, and the brain would just come back. It's not quite like my Timeless Ones concept, where you do the damage, and then the energy of doing the damage stops, and then reverses. It's more like, you appear to have murdered them. They're still talking to you, though. they're still perfectly coherent, and also their skull appears to be piecing itself back together in rapid fashion. So, yeah, that's... You can't kill the witch. You can make a gruesome mess of them temporarily, though. And that's all that we have for today. So, yeah, this video was late because I couldn't not talk about my parliament biting off its own head. Yeah, I'm gonna need your guys' support more than ever very soon, I think. Assuming I still have a currency to use. Ugh. Catch you next time, guys.